Okay, so let's start. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. We're very happy to have you here on this special webinar. It's more than just a special webinar, okay? Usually when we have a webinar, we talk about some topic that relates to our day-to-day activities. We usually do product shows. We talk about scenarios. We give a platform for everybody to ask questions. This webinar is among friends, let's call it, among friends, among business partners. And we decided to share some information from a specific scenario, which is common, which I think to almost any sales guy in the world, any B2B sales guy in the world. In this specific webinar, we're going to talk about the power of personalization. Okay, we as everybody as a salespeople, we have one major desire, right? We want to sell, we want to outreach, we want to convert. We want to be able to reach our sales target in the most fast, pleasant manner. And we need to use technology for that. We need to use technology for that. We need to use tools and we need to use knowledge. And here in this specific webinar, we're going to talk about tools, technology. We're going to talk about experience. We're going to talk about this power of personalization. How can personalization increase your outreach performance? And we're going to talk from the side of the vendors who supply the technology, but also from the side of the users, from the experts, people that have been doing that for years and years and have an experience. So we would love to share that specific knowledge. So first of all, we'd love to present my partners, my colleagues here. It's call it from different companies, but we work together, or we share some mutual experience. First of all, let's start from Serbia. We have Dan here. Dan, raise your hand. Everybody see you. Good morning, Dan. Or good afternoon. You're on mute.
So yeah, I'm mute. So morning guys, morning everyone. Nice to see you.
So Dan, Dan is the CEO and founder of Excel. Yep. Dan has been doing sales activities for years. He's been doing basically providing sales as a service for companies in the technology space and other spaces. And he has salespeople doing that day and night from his office in Belgrade and other locations as well. So Dan, we're very happy to have you here on board. And we'll really love to hear more about your experience in the sales activity and how you see personalization here. Our second partner here, a technology partner, is Ian. Okay, Ian. Good afternoon, Ian. Right.
Good evening for me. I'm in Bali at the moment, so it's 7 o'clock in the evening. So it's quite warm and humid. So if you see it's me sweating.
Yeah. So thank you, Ian, for having
me here.
So Ian is the CEO and founder of Hyperise. Hyperise is you saw them on the event management page on LinkedIn, and I assume that some of you got their amazing personalization messages on emails and other campaigns with your name on it. So Ian is the CEO and founder of Hyperise, and he's going to tell us more about his platform today. Okay, so thank you, Ian, and I hope you stay cool over there in Bali. If it's warm, if it's too warm for you, we can switch. Okay, I told you before, we can switch. You'll be here in Haifa, and I'll be in Bali. Okay, I'm willing to babysit your kids and change kids as well if you want, but we can discuss that later. Okay, so we have also
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we have also here from Cyprus. We have Philippe. Okay, Philippe is like a sales monster. Okay, he works for Voiso. Philippe, we'll have to introduce yourself.
Of course, Roy. Thank you for introduction. My name is Philippe, and I'm a sales engineer for Voiso and owner of the Magico company for partnership outsourcing. I do customer acquisition for a living, and what I love the most about it is that every day I get a chance to talk with a stranger, exchange knowledge, and improve myself on a daily basis. A little bit about Voiso. We're a contact center solution that provides international numbers, omni-communication platform under one umbrella and one interface. So thank you, Roy, for introduction. That's
perfect. So guys, just to talk about the agenda of how this webinar will be conducted, we're going to let each one of the teams to present themselves in 5 minutes. And then afterwards, I'm going to ask some pre-advanced questions that we set, talking about personalization. In the meantime, when you listen, it will be great. You're a big audience, 28 people already. If you can, if you have questions, and we really want to hear your questions, just write them on the chat. And then afterwards, at the end of the webinar, we left enough time to answer questions, and we can talk about relevant items that you want to discuss, or you want to comment based on what you're going to hear today. So that's the agenda for the day. In the meantime, until we reach that question period, if you can just stay on mute, it's 40 people, and it's hard to hear everybody. So only one of us will be in a speaking one in parallel. But again, we recommend to write everything you have immediately on the chat, and we'll monitor that. So thank you, guys. So let's start with Dan. Dan, I would love to learn about more in general about Excel. What are you guys doing on a daily basis in the sales?
Yeah, it's actually quite simple, right? You know, the only thing we do is actually growing sales for companies as yours. Actually, we specialize in a B2B software sales. For now, we have 11 customers, mainly startups, funded startups from around A. We also have 47 sales guys working here in office in Belgrade, and also a couple of them working remote around the globe in the UK, in Cyprus, in Malta, in Sweden as well. And in Mexico, we have 5 SDRs also working there for some of our customers. The business model is quite simple. It's a sales on demand model. But what actually separates us from others is not purely the outreach methodologies, you know, and the strategies we conduct. It's actually the process, how we're doing it with the personalization. And that is what I'm super happy, you know, to share with everyone here, and hopefully to, you know, answer a couple of questions from the audience. So early in my career, after leaving the army, I worked in the army for 10 years, and then I started, you know, building my career in sales. So I figured out that actually the most important part to succeed in the sales, to reach targets and overachieve every single task you have, is actually to be fully personalized in your approach to every single customer or a prospect or lead you communicate with, no matter the industry, right? So the reason we are so specific, and I'm happy to share that, you know, successfully what we're doing is how we actually managed to do that. It's not a secret. You said at the beginning that we are using different various tools, and two of those tools are your guys, your Ian's, Hyperise and the LeadSpotting as well. We have a couple of different tools, and the main one I actually believe that everyone knows here is a LinkedIn, right? So the thing about personalization of the LinkedIn is to be able to see everyone's movements there. Okay, one tool I will highly recommend. It's not like a paid commercial, but definitely, guys, if you're looking to have a real data and real information about any prospect you're trying to reach and to engage and to communicate, you should, you know, consider using LeadSpot. And Roy will definitely tell you more about it. Great tool. Speaking about, you know, something more, if you want to know, any of you, you know, guys, how you're working with whom more precisely, feel free to ask in the chat, and I will answer you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So let's move the floor to Ian. Okay, Ian. So you've transformed personalization to your main target, right? So I'd love if you can share some more information about your platform, and first of all, why do you think personalization is so important?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to echo what Dan was saying before, you know, it's about kind of cutting through the noise and standing out. And I think when your prospect's being bombarded every day, lots of messages, thousands of messages a day, people want to feel special and don't want to think that, you know, they're part of a huge automated campaign. And that's kind of really where personalization helps. It kind of triggers what's referred to as a pattern interrupt, essentially a psychological behavior that just triggers more mind share, essentially. And that more mind share leads to more engagement and more people taking their call to action. And that's really kind of the key to personalization generally. And what we do with Hyperise is focus on images. And the reason why we focus on images is because the human brain processes images like 60,000 times quicker than text. So when you have an image and you have personalization in that image, like you mentioned before, like their first name or their business name or even their logo, you know, if it's a kind of a firmographic sort of relationship, and that pattern interrupt is essentially like a psychological behavior where the brain is just shouting, hey, stop, pay more attention to this. because it's something a little bit different. And so with Hyperise, what we've done is we've created this tool that essentially enables you to create image templates. So in the same way that if you were reaching out and creating a campaign and you had a message template where you'd be like, hi, first name, I was really interested in your company name, etc. What we've done is taken that same philosophy and applied it to images. So you can create an image template like this example here that probably people will be familiar with. And as you can see here, we've got these kind of layers, very similar to a tool, kind of similar to, like, say, Canva, for example. And what you can do is add in placeholders for name or business name, or even logo or profile image, even down to like maps and website screenshots. And these placeholders will dynamically personalize on the fly. And like I said before, it's those personalization placeholders that are going to, when the person receives it, they're going to, be a little bit spellbound or have this moment of delight because it's something a little bit different. And like I say, it creates this pattern interrupt, which just creates more mind share, and that can really help. But also what we can do with Hyperise is humanize those images as well. So rather than it being just, for example, a template with personalization in there, we can use these augmented reality placeholders. So within the platform, you can record a GIF, essentially holding this bit of paper, which you can print off from Hyperise, and then we replace that with your personalized image. And then so what you end up with is this kind of double level of personalization, because you've got the personalization that's personalized to whoever your prospect is. In this example, we can see Tim Cook, but then we're also humanizing it as well. And so you're creating these further kind of psychological traits, like the law of reciprocity, for example, which states that if you do something nice for somebody, they're going to feel more compelled to respond. And so, you're creating these strong relationships, building trust, whilst at the same time using the personalization to, to kind of knock down that door, stand out from the crowd, and really grab their attention. And then what we do with Hyperise is we integrate, with amazing platforms like LeadSpotting, so you can add these personalized images into your outreach, and so automatically they're personalized on the fly. So it's automatically done at scale without having to lift a finger, essentially.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Thank you, Ian. First of all, I've seen this video a lot of you pushing that image in the face. I'm gonna admit I got a couple of nights I had a nightmare related to it, but it's a joke. Anyway, but definitely your platform provides a very interesting way of how to personalize the messages. So let's move to Philip.
Sorry, Ray, just 1 second, if I may.
Sure.
If I may. I don't know, does anyone here is from a recruiting sphere? But one of my companies, Recruitera, is actually highly, using Ian's tool, and the perfect combination of the images and the videos can definitely be used in the recruitment. So anyone, if someone is here from a recruitment or a HR, guys, feel free to try it and, do the best with it. Thank you. This is just like a thank you for the tool. This is just a thank you for the tool.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's definitely an amazing tool. And by the way, just as a background, before I started developing stuff for personalization, one of the things that popped out into my mind, into my vision, is that I did an academic research. Okay, first of all, there's a lot of academic researchers that explain very simply that personalization improves engagement. Okay, if I'm going to send you an email, hi, would like to participate in a webinar, or I send an email with your first name, or I send an email with more information, it definitely will work better. So with Ian's combination of images, which as we say, an image words to 1,000 words, right? There is a phrase like this. It's definitely something which is very applicable in how to personalize the content that we send as part of the sales outreach to our clients. So let's move on to Philippe. Philippe, we'd love to hear more about yourself and the way you use your personalization.
Thank you. And you actually made a great intro for the things that I'm going to talk about right now. So actually, as an experienced salesperson, I consider personalization as one of the most important and necessary skill that a salesperson should have. And personalization is the act of pitching to the customer that actually addresses the pain points, needs, and challenges of the customers, all while making it feel appreciated. And actually, those things that you mentioned before is the right thing that I'm going to explain right now. Personalization is built on 3 pillars. What you said right now about Hyperise and LeadSpotting, this is the second part of the personalization, which is considered as a tools that will help you get more personalized responses and automate your personalized flow. But let's start from the first part of that 3 pillars, which will be the salesman, what salesmen should do. So how do I make more calls with the personalization? It's quite easy, and everybody, I think that everybody knows that, but let's go through that. So for a great opener, for a cold call, you should use something that is current event or location where the prospect is currently there. So you can have a small talk before you get deep dive into the discussion about the product. One thing that you should pay attention to is that even if it's message, even if it's call, even if it's whatever kind of the approach, if your message looks like the marketing posts, you're doing something wrong. So it means that you should never pitch on the first message, because the way of you standing out is the way of making first the connection, then to try to understand and go again back to those pain points, needs, and challenges of the customer. But the way how customers should feel appreciated is the way that not send him like the automated pitch on the first message, but to send him something in regards of connection first, then after that to discussion of a pain points. And the third thing, regardless the tools and what salesmen should do, is the handle objection based on the way of personalization. So let me elaborate on that part of the handling objection for the personalization. So for instance, let's say that our prospect says that he needs more time to think about. Can someone from the attendees tell me what should be the response from our side? Or Roy, Dayan, do you have any idea from it? What should be the answer here?
Dan, what do you say on this case?
Oh, sorry, I was just thinking it's a rhetorical question. So sorry for that, Philip.
Okay, okay,
so
okay, cool.
if you ask me as a customer, you know what you should think about it, right? But if you're speaking about personalization, you know, Kali on your side there with a couple of different tools, I would just add something that we highly, you know, leverage here in Excel when we speak with the customers. When we're saying about personalization, that kind of approach, and you know what to answer to what question and to whom, basically it's knowing what to say, to whom you will be saying, when you will be saying, and how you will actually say and deliver that message, right? So if you've done everything at the beginning properly, meaning from prospecting, actually investigating the client, as Philip said, then I don't think so that necessarily you will find out that customer who will say, I'm not interested. They might say something, I need to think about it, definitely, right? But if you dig it a little bit, and you can investigate the clients, as said at the beginning, and there are different tools you can use. For example, some of them might be similar tech, for example, right? If you're selling softwares to someone else, right? So you can check directly what software they've been using. So you might say something, would you like to think about more how we can benefit in this and that, X, Y, Z, comparing with the software you're currently using, right? So directly, you know, use the use case you can find. That's a kind of personalization. And that's how actually I will reply on that question. I need to think about it instead of, you know, pure like what you need to think about.
I would agree definitely with that. Oh, go ahead, Ian.
No, I was just going to say that typically when there's some pushback, the kind of I need more time is usually a proxy for something else, and it's not really time. There's another blocker, and it's about as we've already discussed, it's about getting to know the customer and really kind of getting to, you know, what is their blocker. And it might be that they've not really understood your offering or your solution, you know, and obviously having further dialogue and able to do that. And that's kind of, again, really what you know, as you talked about before, you know, having a starting gambit that isn't a straight kind of call to action, but having an icebreaker, as it were. Like if you meet somebody in a party, you don't just dive straight in there and,
exactly.
You know, and give them your life story. You know, you kind of start off slowly, you build some sort of common connection, and then you kind of use that as a bridge. Say, okay, we've agreed, we have some commonality here, and so therefore you can use that kind of to parlay that into something else. And so it's really, I think, about listening first before talking, and obviously when somebody kind of comes with that sort of blocker, it's trying to dig into that a little bit, from my experience at least.
Exactly. That's what I was talking about, and I definitely agree with that. So I just want to come back to I need more time to think about it and to raise the way how you can solve that based on the personalization, based on the two methods. So as Dan said, of course, we should give an example that relates to them from another company and make them and explain them that we understand the case, that they need more time to understand such a thing, because from the company that is like a tech similar to them, you can give them an example that they, for example, waited 2 weeks and then make a decision. And that's one side of the personalization. But on the other side of the personalization, let's say it like that. We can tell to our prospect that usually it's not the time that makes the decision, it's the more information. And usually, based on our psychology, we think that waiting for more time, we are going to acquire more informations. But the only source actually for those kind of information is me as a salesperson. So you can do it this way. You can propose that and tell them, okay, I understand that you need more time, but I'm the only source of the information that you will get. So please, what are your main concerns right now? And keep it that way. So in that approach that we saw right now, we had an example of the similar company with a similar issue and similar way of workflow. And on the other hand side, we step on the prospect's shoes and understand the situation, but raise the handle the objection on the way that is more for the prospect than for ourselves. We're not talking about the features. We're not talking about the special promos. We're not talking about any kind of the things that will raise him and stick him there with him. We are offering him support, solution, and understanding of the case. And that's why we're offering to him to talk at the moment with all of the concerns that he has, because waiting at this time is just blank waiting, because we are the only source of the information. So what do you think about this, guys?
Well, I think it's an amazing approach, okay? The only obstacle with that, it requires some sort of a deep investigation and a lot of effort for each prospect, okay? Which, eventually in some big clients, when you want to personalize the flow for them, it makes sense. But let's say on the initial step, when you want to outreach our people, that's a lot of time-consuming activity.
That's correct. That's correct. But this is an objection. So basically, this is like a qualified lead already. So we're not talking about the outreach. We're talking about when we have it last in the funnel.
You're already in discussion, correct?
Yeah, when you're already in the discussion. When we're talking about the outreach, it's I agree definitely with that. Okay,
thank you, Philip. We'll come back to you in a couple more questions soon. We're still in the introduction phase, and when I'm going to take the opportunity, you guys mentioned our company before a couple of times, so I want to elaborate a bit more about what we're doing in relation to outreach optimization and relation to personalization. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm using two screens so I can see that it's being shared. So this is LeadSpotting. LeadSpotting, basically, it's a data company. We provide data of prospects, and we tag ourselves as an outreach optimization platform. Our job, our mission, our goal in life is to help marketeers, is yours, to find the best data and the best tools, and to get really good conversion numbers on LinkedIn and any other platforms you want. Now, our tools is being constructed from multiple elements. One element is, for example, it's our LinkedIn add-on. Our LinkedIn add-on, it can provide people on LinkedIn can provide emails and contact numbers. Okay, we can provide accurate email with the best email accuracy in the market, and we can provide also office numbers and mobile numbers in some countries. In our personalization, we provide basically 3 features of personalization. One feature is that we can personalize your connection message on LinkedIn. Every time you enter a prospect on LinkedIn, what we do is we automatically analyze your profile, and based on our own patterns and on your own templates, we can create personalized connection message, okay? Like we can say, we're very keen that we saw a big post you did yesterday, very exciting, would love to connect. We saw that you have a lot of followers on LinkedIn. Wow, it's amazing, we'd love to connect. I saw that you're, in this case, specifically you're an attorney. I don't know if that's specific case for me to connect to an attorney, but that's also possible. So we can personalize your connection message. On top of that, our platform can also, we build a layer of personalizing messages on LinkedIn. So you can build a sales message in our backend system, and then the system is saved as a template. And every time I want to send some guy a message, instead of typing it, I can just browse in one of the templates, see the response rate, and click, and the message gets feel personalized. So this is basically, it's called about static info. What we do more in personalization, which is really, really AI and amazing, is that every time we open a message box with someone on LinkedIn, the system automatically crawls the prospect company, try to find events, like events as a fundraising or a partnership or a product launch, etc. And then the system automatically builds with natural language processing an ice-breaking message. For example, with this guy, Danny Anderson, the system identified that this company published on LinkedIn today, okay, a partnership with a company called the Roku channel, okay? So I can outreach him and say, hi, Daniel, nice to meet you. Wow, you're amazing partnership. So in relation to Philippe's time of investing on, let's say, qualified leads, we are operating in the early stage, in the outreach, and we give that level of personalization also to when you want to do mass outreach. Now, if I want to investigate and I wanted to send this type of personalized message one by one for each prospect manually, it's going to take me forever, okay? Years, decades, I don't know, whatever, okay? So our system does it automatically. And another part of a personalization is actually Ian. We are now embedding in our own platform an ability, let me just log in, an ability to create on the templates with Ian's technology, okay? So I can log here on the place where we construct the messages, and I can click and add a personal image, and this goes to Ian's dashboard, okay? And when I click and I pick a template, there's gonna be 9 different templates, and you can also embed your own templates, and I click select, and you see a link with Hyperise, link with a personalization parameter is embedded automatically within the message. So our own message templates, where you can send people messages on LinkedIn, will also contain Ian technology, and it's amazing. Then you can send people messages on LinkedIn, personalized to them with dynamic info and with images containing their name. So this is what we do as a company in relation to outreach and personalization. Okay. So I think, guys, we finished the boring, plain introduction phase of the game. And now it's time to move to some interesting questions before we step into the really interesting part, which is the people's questions here. Okay, so Dan, you spoke about your experience. We also heard about you. Question number 1. I want to get an example. I wanted to get an example, an interesting example, where you had some sort of a sales objective, objection, let's call it, and you and one of your teammates had to break it or how to outreach it, and then you use another personalization or some other idea you had in order to break the objection and move ahead with the sales. Anything you can share from your amazing experience?
Well, there is a lot to share, right? So what actually, crossed my mind right now is one example from a recruiting, right? And sourcing, recruiting, actually staffing. And the one is where we was involved directly in the selling, e-commerce softwares for, better personalization and, improve those kind of KPIs and metrics for e-commerces, right? So from recruiting, I super recall, I get an assignment from one tech company from Dubai to, try to source the perfect candidate. It's actually CTO. So what everyone is doing, I go there on a GitHub, right? I go there on as well LinkedIn and trying to find those kind of perfect candidates. So I find one among many of others. And what actually make me now to speak about them is that the guy was highly not interested in, switching the company, switching the roles, no matter the budgets, no matter the, other possibilities. So I dive deeply in, his profile and investigate every single company he worked with. So I find the one at the beginning of his career. He worked there for 11 years, right? And
Okay.
I'm trying then to compare that kind of company with the current that actually wants to, have them onboarded. So I compare the company culture, the products, how they treat everyone, not just employees, but as well in the customers, right? And the general, around the globe, how they treat every single human being, because they are super involved in, other activities as well. So I make a comparison there, like, hey, I noticed that you work for this company for the longest period of time. I'm just curious to know the reasons might be this and that. Am I right? Am I wrong? Or can you be so kind to share with me what was the reason why you stayed there for a huge period of time comparing with other companies? So he said, yes, I was at the beginning. It was super interesting for me. I recognized myself there, working there, and I asked, why'd you change? Right? And he said, it was time to move on. So I compare those kind of, answers he provided me and what I investigate with the current company. And I said, like, okay, so this is the thing. It might be the situation for you again to make a switch and to change something. The best part here with this startup is that you will be able to build everything from scratch. So you will have a possibility to build your own ecosystem, let's call it like that, like in the first company, right on, to the new product. What do you think about it? And he said, as Philip said, I need to think about it, right? So basically, the process of, getting him on board was like 6 months, but eventually he signed up a deal and he's now working in Dubai, right? So probably you will meet him. Another example was, I said when we were selling e-commerce personalization software, and the problem there is that everyone is speaking about personalization, right? But the personalization is not, as you guys stated previously, purely important, like a name, surname, company name, or maybe, the last thing about something or a nickname or something that's changed, right? The personalization is really knowing as much as possible about anyone, right? And definitely the tool I'm heavily, count on it to help me is your voice, as you know, and be using it every single day. So comparing, actually pairing it with other tools like a similar tech, we was able to find out what metrics can be improved and should be improved. So we spoke with the customers. Hey, I see that your bounce ratio is 35%. It's an industry standard. It's not a big deal. But what if you can actually, readjust it for a 10 to 50%? Would you like that? Everyone was like to do that, right? So that's the kind of personalization I'm speaking with. And thanks to that, we was able to show the system how it works. Actually, we was able to deliver those kind of things. So, the customer still is using the software. That's kind of, those kind of stories.
Interesting stories. It's always nice to hear your stories. By the way, I heard a lot of Dan's stories. I'm probably going to hear a lot more. So that's my own personalization fun. Thank you. So Ian, let's go to a very interesting question to you. Ian, you're sitting at a very interesting intersection, okay? Because you are a platform provider for personalization, and probably I assume that you day and night you analyze the statistics and the operation and what type of activities your users are using. Can you give us, without exposing too much, company secrets and intellectual property issues, can you give us a hint about which type of media, which type of personalization parameters are the ones that gives your users the best conversion? Because I assume that you also see their analytics as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen again, because obviously we're quite a visual company. So let me, but ultimately, we dog food. We use our own product, and kind of use that. So we see our own analytics, but we also work, closely with a lot of our customers, especially when they first come on board. When they're keen to understand and benchmark the differences. And really what it comes down to is making it purposeful. And so, like, for example, the image we were looking at before, we're talking about this event in this case. And so, what we've done is we've visualized an event ticket, and that kind of can look kind of something, kind of like these humanized GIFs, like this example here, where you're holding it and you're showing somebody. And when you kind of make it purposeful, so the visualization is a clue for what you're talking about, that really helps a lot. And so these humanized ones, you know, with that purposefulness helps. And so let me just jump to these examples here, which is still the visualization, but without the humanization. And this is a case study for one of our clients, which is G2. Now, for those of, I'm sure most people on this call have heard of G2, but for those that haven't, essentially they're like TripAdvisor, but for software. So if you're looking for a software solution by category, they will show you who's the best, who's up and coming, who's got the best reviews and that sort of thing. And what they were doing is part of their campaign, they were reaching out to prospect people that were either not listed on G2 or that weren't listed particularly strongly. But what they did is, and they produced these reports, these kind of grid reports on a quarterly basis. But what they did in this case is they mocked them up, created examples of them within Hyperise, and they personalize them to the prospect they're reaching out to. So you can see these examples, you know, Salesforce or HubSpot. These kind of logos and business names were generated dynamically for each prospect. And what they had is this aspirational message of, if you work with G2, in the future, you could become, you know, a category leader. So it's very much a kind of this, you know, take action, and this is kind of what's going to happen. So it's kind of visualizing success, you know, based on the action that they should take. And when they use these personalized images, it tripled their reply rate, going from 15 to 48%. So a massive uplift. And they do, like, their kind of campaign sizes can be up to 10,000 prospects in a campaign. It's absolutely huge. And so if you've got 10,000 prospects and you triple your reply rate, you can imagine how impactful that can be. But essentially what they were doing is, you know, showing success, kind of visualizing something. And we've kind of seen it with clients again and again. You know, this is another example, reply.io, where they were targeting customers that had you know, a specific problem. So in this case, that we're using lots of different pieces of software, a Calendly solution, a booking solution, you know, all those sort of things. And so, you know, if anybody out there is using lots of bits of software, one of the pain points you're going to have is, you know, they don't really talk to each other very well, and, you know, it's all a bit of a mess. And so they kind of diagrammatically told this story of, here's a pain point you have, and here's the solution, and kind of visually kind of showing it, you know, again, bringing through the prospect logo in there. So the logo is obviously the personalization, triggering the pattern interrupt for them to pay attention. But the diagrammatic storytelling, you know, is a much easier way for us to assimilate that information, you know, and then kind of understand what's being said. In their case, in Reply's case, it doubled their reply rate, going from 11 to 21%. And we've done this ourselves. I mean, just look at our own stats. I hate the fact that this is an exact number, 1,300. That's how many meetings we've booked so far since March. We've been recording this, and you can see the percentage book rates here. So we've done a lot of numbers, you know, over 15,000 kind of clicks coming from 140,000 emails to generate 1,300 bookings. And so we've kind of gone through and done an inordinate amount of A/B tests, kind of using images like the ones we're seeing here, and these kind of humanized ones, you know. But the kind of the key to all of this, the commonality, if you like, that runs through it all, is making it very much purposeful. So, you know, we can see here, this is James from Staff Circle, and he targets customers just as they change roles. So, you know, for example, you know, their solution is about employee experience. They're targeting HR managers when they change roles, and so he's kind of using this personalization on the whiteboard. He's saying, "Hey, congratulations on the new role." And so it's kind of that icebreaker, not really kind of saying anything, you know, kind of, but then kind of parlaying that, or kind of transferring that into, you know, I'd love to talk to you about, you know, kind of employee experience in their case. But it's very purposeful, but humanized it as well. And that's kind of really the key that we've seen with all of our clients, you know, when they can double or triple or even more, you know, by having the kind of visualization help tell that story. So definitely my key number one kind of recommendation to anybody starting off using image visualization, because images are so powerful, is to try and reinforce your call to action as much as possible. And like we saw with G2 or Reply.io, you know, or many of the other customers. This is another client of ours, Hubstaff. Now their call to action was to get people to sign up for a self-serve free trial. So there's no kind of humanization. They weren't going to meet anybody in an event or a kind of a sales call, but they had to kind of take action and sign up. So what they did is they took their product and personalized it. You can see this example personalized to Tim Cook. So they're putting through the business logo in the dashboard. The person listed at the top of the dashboard, is the prospect. And their solution is all about managing remote staff, saying, hey, don't manage people in spreadsheets, manage them in our solution. And this visualization showed how simple it would be, and kind of if they took action, this is kind of what they will eventually see, putting the trial in their hands before they've taken their action. And when they did that, their click-through rates for people taking that call to action of signing up for a self-serve free trial went from 3 to 11%. So more than tripled that engagement rate of people taking action. And again, very much purposeful. Here's the system you're going to take if you take action. And look, it's already personalized to you. This is how it's actually going to look. So really is about, kind of giving visual hints and clues to those prospects.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Amazing growth numbers. Okay, if you can share me pass some of these meeting invites to me we'll do a deal afterwards. Philippe,
yeah, absolutely.
I got a question for you as our let's call it the hardworking and the sales guy, what 24/7. Can you describe your sales flow and where in your outreach the personalization steps in your? I assume that I know you for a couple of times, and I'm pretty sure that you have a well-organized flow of how to attract and nurture leads, prospects. Well, can you describe in a couple of words your flow? What's the exact place that you have placed personalization within?
Well, first of all, Roy, thank you for that. And I would have to say that you gave me a hard time with this question. So because of the flow for each salesman, for each prospect is different. And we should pay attention to the things that stay the same in all of those outreaches. So it's not the end product. It's something that is from before that stays in every outreach. And what will that be? First of all, is definitely a good preparation. So when you have a qualified lead, that's the most important part, because when you have a qualified lead, you finished, you know that you can provide a value for that customer. It's just a matter of how you can provide the value for that customer. But if you don't do qualification of the lead well, at the same time, you're losing the structure of providing the value for the customer. So how you should do your preparation? You should prepare more information about the lead, and that's when the personalization starts, actually. You should find similar cases in case you need to provide an example and understand the pain points of the customer that you already have in the pipeline and try to understand. But what I suggest here with an understanding of a whole case is to limit yourself a time. Because yes, from one perspective, it's surely better to have as much information as you can have, but from another perspective, you should limit yourself a time because of the quality of information improves when you're limited on the time. Of course, this is something that should be trained and should be practiced. So how the time goes for the certain amount of the time for the preparation, you will have as much more better understanding and of the case of the customer. So first of all, this is the preparation. The second thing is selling to the company and not to the person. What does it mean? The first mistake when I see from the sales rep actually is they trying to focus on the position or trying to focus on the decision maker. You can agree with me and all of you that sometimes it can go from the decision maker down to the person who is actually going to use the software platform, etc., such as sales rep, such as contact center managers, or it can go from the down level to up level to the decision makers, where it can be from for example, a contact center manager to the CEO who is going to make the decision. So don't limit yourself to a position, because you know, and based on the preparations that you made, you know that you can bring value to that customer. It's the matter of the connection personalization and how you would approach to them, if it's going to be the decision maker who you're going to discuss with, or it's going to be a contact center manager in my case, where I'm going to start to talk about the features, metrics in our software, and then raise that question to the decision maker. Of course, something that I would like to use as a personalized approach is one example with ISON Experience. That's one big BPO from South Africa. And it took me around 5 months to close that deal. So with them, they didn't want to answer to the phone. It was like a stoppage in the communication. I was talking to the solution architect, and then I've got an idea to send a donuts, but literally the donuts, to the CEO and the office.
You know, it's Hanukkah today, and we eat donuts on Hanukkah. Special donuts with jam. Okay,
wow, cool.
We had an happy hour an hour ago. I ate like 5 of them. Okay, so just brought me those donuts. Okay.
So that it's a great example then, especially for today. So I have sent them the donuts and called them again with local call number. So I used South African number to call them and to ask them how were the donuts. And they were laughing about it. They liked it. And then after 1 month after that, we closed the deal. So you should, the point of this story is never give up, even if it's regarding the donuts. If you should send the donuts, send them. And
by the way, did you send the donuts here? There was a lot of donuts. Would you? Okay.
No. We are already partners, so no donuts per euro. and of course, at the end, when I'm talking about this, is you should use all of the channels, and you should use all of the personalization tools that will help you here. Here in the personalization tools, details matter. So as you said, Roy, if I want to send a campaign for outreach on the LinkedIn, it'll take me decades if I want to use it manual. And if I want to save some time in those details, I would use LeadSpotting. If I want to stand out from the crowd, I would definitely use Hyperise connected with the LeadSpotting, because they will see that this is something that stands out from the crowd. And at the end, to give them a trust, I will use Voiso for the calls, because Voiso has local telephone numbers from more than 140 countries, and integrations with all of the online messengers such as WhatsApp, Instagram, Telegram, you name it, we have it. So basically, the way of details and improving those details is to use the tools that will help you automatize and of course, give them the trust, because you will be the local guy who wants to help them. You will stand out from the crowd, and you can raise your amount of the messages by using Voiso. So and at the end, of course, when you finish the call, you can send through Voiso SMS follow-up that it can be automatical, or you can do that the same thing through the email feature of LeadSpotting, or LinkedIn feature through the LeadSpotting. So
thank you, Philip. Guys, we are close to wrap up. So before we wrap up, let's leave 3 more minutes for questions. In these 4 minutes, when you think of your question, I see there's already one question for the crowd. I want to share the last one for myself. The last one for myself is, what is the vision, the roadmap of doing more personalization features? So I tell you one thing. One of the things we're planning to do in our roadmap, and in the next room we have our R&D team, and they're sitting on it just now as we speak, is we're trying to give even a bigger vision of personalization. Okay, one of the things we're gonna release in the next quarter is an ability to recommend on a personal level the right message. So today, for example, you can prepare like 5 different sales pitches. Okay, each one with a different flavor, and you can personalize the image or the name. Imagine that the system will be smart enough to tell you that for this person, for these type of roles or geographies, message number 2 is better than message number 1. There's going to be a prediction there. Also, I got to tell a personal story. Guys, we are on the edge of a revolution. Which revolution? The real AI revolution. I got to tell you a story. We're in marketing, everything has to be 100%. Like I gotta be in the most elite level of marketing materials, right? You think 50 times on each phrase you're putting on an email or a LinkedIn template or on your website, okay? So we, as a company, we are keeping to improve our content materials. So so one of the things we tried to do was to improve our own landing page. So I sat on some given Saturday, like 4 or 5 hours, just staring at that piece of paragraph I wanted to operate on our website. And then I sent that to the developer, and my developer, these are smart developers, smarter than me, I guess. And they went into OpenAI, to the chat GPT, if you guys are familiar with the new chat of Elon Musk and OpenAI. And they asked the chat, what's going to be a better phrasing for LeadSpotting? And in a second, it blew up an amazing message that tore me apart. Okay, so my dial 4 or 5 hours of staring at the step were totally redundant. So no, it opened my eyes. So imagine we can use chat GPT for each sales metric, for each person, how to improve it. So that's something which is also part of our roadmap. Okay, so personalization is a key factor. That's a fact. Nobody can disagree now. The main question is how to deploy it, when to deploy it, and how much to deploy it. So guys, thank you for your time. We have one question here from Daniel Simone. Daniel Simone is asking, how does it work on LinkedIn requests? I don't know, Daniel, who you refer that specific question, if it's for me or for Hyperise. But as we mentioned before, you can personalize messages on LinkedIn and also request connection messages with text. And you can also personalize it, combining Hyperise links within the LeadSpotting platform. I hope I answered that question. We already demonstrated that before. I see another comment, but it's not a question. Guys, thank you very much. Any more further questions you run right now? If not, we will wrap up and we'll send this recording and other stuff to everybody on the email. Last questions to the amazing team? No. So thank you everybody for joining. Thank you very much, Philippe, Dan, and Ian. It was a better tool. There is a question now. Email versus LinkedIn. What is a better tool?
LinkedIn.
Who wants to answer that? Philip.
I mean, from my
I would give this to Dejan. Dejan is the expert for the LinkedIn. So, but I know that the answer is LinkedIn, and that's also my personal opinion.
Look, the answer might surprise you. Okay, just if I may, the answer might surprise. It's a telephone.
Definitely
telephone.
Definitely. I think from my perspective, I don't think it's an either or. I think it's both. For example, with LinkedIn, obviously you have specific limits of what you can do. And so LinkedIn can be a great tool to identify prospects. You've got a real kind of rich amount of data there. But sometimes reaching out via email, because not everybody on LinkedIn acts the same way. Some people are there to consume their data, the feed, the news feed, and very rarely go to their messages. And some people live in their messages there. So there is no one size fits all. Personally, what we do is we do both, So we reach out to people, via LinkedIn, and if that doesn't work, and if we can get there, using tools sort of like LeadSpotting, get their email, then we'll hit them up on email. So I think you should never really kind of have this absolute mentality of it's going to be this or that. I think and like Dan said, a phone as well. Absolutely, some people really enjoy getting a phone call. Some people, it's especially kind of the younger millennials, etc.
Yeah,
not so much. But going back to what Philippe was saying, I think having a local number calling you as well, if you're going to resort to phone numbers, is crucial. When I see a number that's maybe, like I said, different, coming from a different country, then it really can be quite a blocker. But having a local number, much more likely to be answered. And so I think there is no choose this channel over that. LinkedIn is amazing for finding, identifying prospects, and then how you actually contact them is down to their personal preferences. And so you have to kind of knock a few doors, to see which is going to work best for them.
Exactly, I definitely agree. Local calls boost around 25% of the pickup ratio, so that's quite big. That's quite big. And as you said, definitely you should never give up for the company that you should bring value. And either if it's LinkedIn, email, or I can knock on their office. That's something that every good salesman should do. So don't limit yourself on any channel. Don't limit yourself on any person. And that way you can definitely boost your results.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Dan, again. Thank you, everybody. Have a great end of the year. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Christmas coming up soon. Enjoy the vacation. And next year, it's a new sales year. Okay, new targets. There's a so-called economic slowdown, but I think it's time to grow. Okay, thank you all. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Cheers. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.